Right, so we'll start off with the first question that's probably on many people's minds is, what is esports? So you'll see in front of you on the screen that is a definition given to us by the British Esports Association, and we'll go on to talk about them with QMC and myself in a little bit. But I won't go through word for word with you on that, because I'm pretty sure that you can all do that yourselves. But ultimately, it is a competitive human versus human video gaming environment. For those of us who are really unsure on esports and they want to know a little bit more, we'll absolutely get into the purpose of this presentation and how it fits and aligns itself within education. What you'll see on the screen in front of you are just some facts and figures from the esports industry over the last couple of months and also the last couple of years. It's no surprise that the esports industry has absolutely sort of exponentially blown up in the last couple of months due to the worldwide pandemic. It was always going to be year on year better in terms of turnover and global reach, but I think 2020 is going to see something in terms of figures that no one's ever quite encountered before. It then puts itself in place to, again, year on year, go on to be the biggest global sporting event of all time, potentially, and there are talks that esports will also make its way into the Olympics. Esports is also currently watched by more people than those who watch the Super Bowl. So in terms of its general awareness, it's not, I don't want anyone to think it's not just about gamers and people who only watch other people game. It's nothing like that at all. There is a huge industry and a huge purpose to what we're doing. And as I say, as we get through the presentation, hopefully that will become a little bit clearer for you. Hopefully, if all goes to plan, you can see slide 3 now. So what you've got are several pictures, ultimately discussing where QMC started to where QMC is now in the world of esports, and also how we get to being able to present the first ever BTEC in esports. Slide number 1, a colleague and I went up in January, December, January time, to Fulham to go and see the Formula 1 competition that takes place up near there. That was a real eye-opener for us, because we were aware of the industry and how big it was, but we didn't expect it to be set up in quite that way. You also saw hundreds of people queuing to get in, to get a very privileged seat. And this, for me, was quite an interesting approach, because this was on a school night. And to see all of these people compete and be heavily sponsored by New Balance and the like, this gave us an indication that what we were trying to do at QMC would be something that's clearly beneficial to students, but also useful longer term for future industries. What QMC did originally, almost a year ago now, mainly through talking to students about interests and kind of cultural events, was to talk to them about things that they're up to, things that they enjoy doing. It's very important as a teacher that obviously you're aware of what the teenagers are up to in many different ways. So you can ideally relate your teaching to it where it allows itself to. And we found that an awful lot of students in their break time, instead of going off running around to go and get something to eat or drink quickly, would actually stay put in the classroom, go straight to YouTube or Mixer or Twitch, and actually spend a lot of their free time watching other people game. This in itself led to myself and a colleague, Matt, drive down south to Chichester Uni, which is one of the universities that actually offers the esports degree, because we were aware that they were doing it, and it was very much in their infancy, and it was something that we had an interest in as well. So we spoke to them about sharing ideas, and they suggested that we should start off with an esports enrichment, and so that's what we did. We're very fortunate enough to have one of our partners involved here, which is HP, Hewlett-Packard, and they had very kindly agreed to lend us some money to put towards some fantastic gaming machines. So we were very fortunate to use their kit and start off with our first ever esports enrichment. Just to give you an idea of how that works at QMC, the way that we have enrichment subjects is that if you happen to have a study period when there is an enrichment on, you're more than welcome to sign up to it. Because we don't have it necessarily at a set time every week, as I say, the numbers that we want for enrichment aren't always as high as you'd imagine, because sometimes there's classes on. The most popular enrichment course tends to be, on the whole, short filmmaking or film clubs, something like that. It sees anything up to 15, 20 people maybe. When we put on our first ever esports enrichment, we had 55 students turn up, and then we had a waiting list on top of that of another 15. So once again, we knew that this was an opportunity for students to get engaged and get involved in something that they wouldn't normally do unless they were at home. This picture here, you can see, is from the esports room currently, and it is one of the rare moments that both first years and second years, male and female students, collaborate in terms of team building and communication and problem solving skills to actually compete regularly as part of the British Esports Association, which again I will come on to in a minute. This picture, this is a place called Overworld in Farnborough, which is a fantastic place. It's almost like an esports hub, similar to a Belong Arena, if you will. And we were invited down there to be able to take all of our, or as many esports students of ours as we could, to compete in various competitions of Rocket League in this particular instance. We then were able to kind of filter out winners and losers, and then we had arranged for other colleges to compete against us as a way of kind of building up some practice and again getting to know the industry on top of that. By now, we had been contacted by various people about what we were doing and how this was growing. One of the people to contact us, first of all, was Pearson, who is the world's leading vocational course provider, I believe. Pearson wanted to know what our thoughts were about whether there would be any sort of uptake or viability in a BTEC esports. Obviously, we jumped at that opportunity. Pearson came in to meet us, and we bounced some ideas about what we would want for a BTEC in esports. We then asked the students to talk to Pearson by themselves. We didn't prime them for anything. We didn't set them up for anything. We just say, go and talk to the students. It's important now that students have some sort of say in their education, and this was a really useful opportunity to do that. What was really pleasing out of the 20 students that we spoke to, or Pearson spoke to, was that every single one of our students said they wanted to understand the esports business. They wanted to know about their branding. They wanted to know how to hold their own events. They wanted to know about their mental or physical well-being. They wanted to know about everything you can think about involving esports, with the exception of actually gaming. These students game anyway. They don't want to know how to do that per se. They want access to the industry beyond that. And again, the industry beyond that is something that I'll be able to talk about in some detail. Also, it is worth noting that what you've got down here that's Jess. Jess is one of 10 or 12 female gamers that we made sure absolutely had a say and a voice in the BTEC itself. What I don't want people to do is to think that if they sign up to this qualification with us in September, that this is a boys' club only, full of people who just kind of game in the dark, drink Monster energy drinks and smell of Lynx Africa. It's absolutely not that at all. We are going to make sure that the course that runs in September has a percentage of non-male participants within that where possible, they are interviewed by female teachers, and where possible, we're also going to make sure that there are female teachers within the course come September as well. We know that, give or take, that 48% of the gaming population are female as well, and we want to make sure that they are fairly represented. And I think, and I hope, that we've got plans in place to be able to deal with that. This logo here, the British Esports Association, as I've already mentioned, I was contacted by Tom Dorr, who's the head of their education over there, to go and help write the qualification in 2-3 very frantic days in December, where there were far smarter, cleverer people than I actually sitting down there in a room where we put together vast unit after unit that was specific purely to esports, but also, as I say, merged with units to do with business and media and also sport. And when we go on to look at those units, hopefully you'll be able to see that there's a combination of those 3 subjects and of course esports as well. Once we knew that there was a BTEC on its way, and I wasn't allowed to mention it, which was very frustrating, but good to know it was coming our way, we then set about creating our esports team to be bigger and better than it was previously. And what you're looking as the final logo here is the what will be the QM Samurais. And what we've been able to do is work with some of our partners to be able to put things in place come September to be able to grow both the team and also the subject as well. Just so you know, this was about a week or 2 before we got to do semi-finals, I think. So this is again a picture of the British Esports Association League, and we have Queen Mary's College Team 2 and Queen Mary's College Team 1. and that was us qualifying top of both groups. We entered 3 teams, and 2 did rather well, 1 not so much. But again, it gave us a real eye-opener about what was important and what esports is useful for. Because what you can see here is a vast collection of schools and colleges from up and down the country, and again, gave us access to speak to new people and collaborate with new people that you wouldn't see in a traditional sport. Now, this is the all-important bit. This is the actual BTEC units themselves. Now, come September, we are going to be doing the single vocational course on this. So we are doing Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, and Unit 4. Our plan for September 2021 will be to do the entire full-time BTEC, which is 15 hours a week, and that's the equivalent of 3 A-levels. But for now, just whilst we kind of find our feet, we're going to be introducing the single VOC, as I say, the extended cert, and we'll be doing Units 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whilst I've all got your attention, hopefully you can see that these units, as I mentioned, are a combination of business units, media units, sport units, and the very bespoke esports units, particularly shoutcasting, esports, coaching, etc. If you're still wondering if there's any sort of credit or credence to these units and suitability for a wider industry, then please bear with me, we'll get on to that. But what I would suggest you do is that you replace the word esports there and you put the word business instead. Okay? So once you remove esports and replace it with business, then hopefully you'll see where we're trying to aim this qualification and its relevance to this current digital world that we're preparing our students for. And which is why I think you've got an incredibly robust and future-proof set of units that are going to go on to create the brand new esporters that hopefully we'll see come September. This slide and 1 or 2 others will be available to you in a link that Victoria will send out towards the end of this. So don't worry if you don't catch all of this information right now. Now, this is a very exciting slide because due to the wonderful relationship that we have with Belong Arenas, who are situated in Basingstoke, and my new friends, Belong and Raven, the jersey company, have put together the QM Samurai shirts. Now, these will be available to some of our students in September on the course, and they will also be available to purchase. And we are going to be, where possible, asking students to wear these around college, and specifically wear these as part of the enrichment course and the British Esports Association gaming events, again, come September. But this is all part of being able to create our own brand if we're going to go ahead and teach branding in this esports unit. So hopefully you can all agree that Belong and Raven, who I am indebted to, have done a truly wonderful job there. Now, this is also exciting, although there's no proper press releases yet, but if all goes to plan, come September as well, we have managed to align ourselves with Belong, the gaming arenas, which you may be familiar with, HP, Hewlett-Packard, as I mentioned before, Lenovo, and also C Learning. And C Learning will be, and Lenovo are going to be very much part of the educational package side of this, where they're going to be coming in specifically to give talks to our students, again, to get them kind of digitally upskilled and future-proofed. HP have offered some wonderful discounts for gaming machines and also provide an awful lot of the hardware that we are looking to do come September as well. And I can't think of many other companies that you would want to align yourselves with within the esports industry. So hopefully this news will be released sooner rather than later. And, you know, this has been 6-7 months in the making, but we're very proud to say that we've got, touch wood, all of these companies on board. And whatever your capacity is in listening to this, whether it's from a student or parent or business perspective, as I say, hopefully you'll be pretty impressed with this, because I know I am. I won't read all of this because this is a bit dull, but this is our proposal to kind of help the Basingstoke area with our students joining us from year 10 and 11, because I'm no doubt that we're only a year or so away from maybe esports even becoming a GCSE. But we want to be able to get into the local schools to be able to speak to those students about the purpose of esports as an industry, because we already know the figures and the numbers already out there to back that up. But also why they should join us within QMC, so we can give them a nice safe pathway whilst they are with us and their time is with us, onto either apprenticeships or scholarships or specific esports degrees at universities. I already mentioned Chichester and Staffordshire University. The digital campus in London is also another one of those too. both fantastic at what they do. And again, you will probably see more of them as the years go by. At the moment, it hasn't yet been greenlit for a whole load of reasons, but obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, which is not something I thought I'd say on a conference call in my lounge. But at the moment, what you will see here, I hope, is the start of a ground floor where we are hoping to begin with, that this is going to become a very specific esports arena, our own one. And we've got, again, the help of Belong, Lenovo and HP are going to help design that. We are well underway with getting quotes, and we hope to kind of get started with that sooner rather than later if all things fall into place. We're hoping that the toilets here and the teaching classroom here and these various classrooms are going to be available for open in 2021, and we hope that will be the start of January, again, if all goes to plan. There's going to be various viewing areas as well for parents. And also we're going to encourage the Year 11 students to come and join us from the local schools for their own enrichment and their own competitions. We're going to look to expand on top of that to make this a facility that's available to people also at the weekend for them to hire and have their own esports games and tournaments for parties, which we've seen sort of grow again over the last 12 to 18 months. And we'll hopefully be able to add something truly unique to Basingstoke and the surrounding areas. What will you get from your time at QMC? Loads, hopefully. But a unique blend of esports businesses and media units delivers specific industry standard esports building. Specific pathways to university, as I've already mentioned. He's tidying up a bit, sorry. Scholarships, and we're going to be using the partners that we've got to be able to help those students who are from maybe a background where they're not fortunate to have access to various kit or money. We're going to ask them to kind of help with trips and also maybe the hiring of jerseys or the funding of jerseys, sorry. All of which are going to be able to get us actual industry esports speakers, as I say, and also you'll be able to get your foot in the door in some form or another with work experience with hopefully Lenovo and HP, as I say. Discount codes, I think I've already mentioned, team jerseys and what have you. This is something truly unique that I think you will see is going to be very popular, certainly south of London. There are other colleges up and down the country who are looking at this as well, but I doubt many are as far ahead of us as others at this moment, because, as I say, we knew this was coming for some months, and I was very privileged to be a part of the actual BTEC unit itself. So what you will get on top of that is you'll get, obviously, a teacher, all being well, who's actually helped create the course, which is a real first for QMC, and as I say, a huge honour to be a part of that. The question that many of us may have, again, as parents or students, and this is the final slide, I believe, so thank you for hanging on in there, is what can you do with your esports qualification? Many of you may have thought, or many sort of doubters will think, well, not much. Hopefully this slide has been put together to kind of show you that's not necessarily true. There are a whole variety of things that you can do because it is so close to a business unit or a media unit or a sporting unit. And of course, the esports industry itself, as I say, is worth well over 130 million at the moment and going some billion, sorry. So it's well on its way to being a true global dominance and going to be seen by many people in the next few months who weren't aware of it before. We know that the BBC have started showing the Rocket League tournament, so that's going to be coming to the public knowledge soon as well. And we also know that during the lockdown, the Premiership footballers have started to use FIFA as a way of getting their football fix, but also raising money for charity and creating their own league on top of that. As someone who's been in education 15, 16 years, I can honestly say that this is the start of something huge, I think. It is a rare moment where something fun and contemporary and, I promise you, educational sort of crashes in together all at the same time. And it's a real honour that QMC will be able to host this and launch this for our Year 11 students come September. So that's the end of the presentation. Hopefully that wasn't too dull for you, or wasn't too quick and you can hear me okay. And if all goes to plan, there may be one or two questions at the end as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, James. Okay, so at the moment, we thought we'd probably start. I'll give you a few moments to add any questions that you would like to add. But let me just mute you for a moment, James. Sorry, I've got a bit of feedback there. But really, I thought I'd just ask you a couple of questions I had from email a bit earlier on from some of our careers leaders. And the first one was, could you just talk for a moment about what sort of students you envisage the course appealing to? You just unmute you there.
Hi, can you hear me again? Okay. Okay. So the course will appeal to a variety of students. It will be those that are already aware of esports as a hobby or an interest or an actual sport. It will be of interest to those students who are looking at maybe a business qualification or a media qualification on top of that as well. It could also be a third option for those who know very little about it but have just seen the spec maybe for the first time or saw it on the website a couple of weeks ago and would like to know more about that, and therefore this allows them the opportunity to do that as well. Can you all hear me okay? Has it gone a bit robotic again?
Just a little bit, James, just a little bit robotic. I'm not quite sure what causes that, but thank you. A question that we've had in from Kirsty in the chat group there is just, what will be the entry requirements for the course? Would you like me to answer that one? I should add, being the admissions officer.
Yes, please, only because I think I'm getting some lag now and I'm getting a slight delay.
No problem. So yes, sorry, the thing I didn't mention at the start was that my job at the college is admissions, so I'm very happy to answer that question. So in terms of entry requirements for this esports qualification, it is a single vocational BTEC course. That means it's the equivalent to 1 A-level, and it's covered by our general entry requirements. There's nothing specific. We need 5 passes. We say grade 4/5, okay? For a vocational qualification like this, a majority of 4s would be acceptable. We'd also obviously want to see English and Maths passed, but that is part of our standard offer. So there's no prerequisite. It's not like a Maths A-level where you must have a certain Maths qualification. This is covered by what the college would call their standard offer. Another one that's just come in here is what other courses might complement the course for a student who is perhaps thinking about doing the media extended diploma. Yes, what I might do actually, I can see that's come from Tracy. Tracy, would you like me to unmute you so that you can pose that? Yeah, let me just.
I mean, obviously I work at the college as well, but my son's joining next year. So he was thinking of doing the media extended diploma, and I just wondered what other courses he could do to complement the esports if that's where he decided to go. James might be best answering that.
Yeah, James, are you there? Okay. James may well have had a slight technological dip there, but don't worry, I'm quite happy to go with that one as well. So hopefully he'll join us again in a moment. Really, in terms of what that course will go with, it can go alongside 2 other A-levels. It can go alongside sorry, I've got an enormous aeroplane going across somewhere as well now. It's all happening. 7:30 is clearly the witching hour. But yes, it can go alongside 2 other A-levels. It can be mixed and matched with other single vocational qualifications. And in terms of a recommendation, really and truly, honestly, we don't have a set, this is the ideal package. We would encourage the students, as with all of the A-levels and the single vocational courses, to choose the 3 things that we're going to interest them most. So perhaps in your son's case, you're looking at maybe putting the media in there to keep it for him, and he could do media A-level or BTEC alongside esports and something else. So sorry to kind of skirt around it, but really it's part of the same sort of package as those others there. Okay, thank you, Tracy. I'll just pop you back on mute for the feedback there. Okay. Lovely. So another question that we've had in here is really just, this is from Kate. Kate's just commenting it'd be good alongside subjects such as media, IT, computing, music, tech. So as you can see, there's quite a large list there. Okay. Question from Melanie Forrester. I think that's Costello. Just saying, it looks really interesting. The question is, in the first year that take it up seem to be focused on mainly theory. The fun stuff seems to come in the following year as part of the full level 3 BTEC. The production, the shoutcasting, the live stream broadcast, etc. Mel's wondering if there would be fun in the first year too. Do we have you back, James?
I am here as a voice entity only. I thought if I turn my camera off, that might help with the lag.
Absolutely fine. And actually, we can hear you quite clearly now. Would you like to just respond to Melanie for me? Really, she's just wondering if there's going to be much fun in the first year, suggesting that maybe those units are quite serious looking for the first.
Well, there's two answers to this. By proxy of me potentially being a teacher on the course, proxy of if I can timetable myself, fun is guaranteed. There you go. Hopefully professionalism, although that I won't promise quite as much as fun. Yes, there will be fun. There will be entertainment. I promise. The first 4 units though are vital, and it does kind of go against the fact that we put the course together to show that there is this serious side to it. What we will aim to do in the year 1 and the year 2 of the 4 units only will be to give the students an opportunity to create and stage their own event, and that will be linked in with one of our partners, which is C Learning. So C Learning are going to be helping us with digital upskilling as part of their partnership agreement with us, and we're also going to be hosting events in year 1 and year 2. We're going to find a way to tie that in with the first element, unit 1, and also hopefully with the unit 4 element. On top of the subjects, which is 5 hours a week, there's also going to be opportunities for students to, from January anyway, in the floor plan that I sort of showed you originally, there is room for breakout rooms. There's also going to be rooms to have some sort of relaxation and yoga, dare I say it, because we're going to encourage students to make a break from the traditional teaching of just staring in front of computers as well. So we think that we will be able to give you an appetizer of everything in the first year, because we take the mental and the physical well-being side of it very seriously. And we know that obviously that's on the increase anyway, year on year. We know that that's also a concern if you're on the computer a lot. And we also know that many students, as well as adults as well, currently in this pandemic of being locked into their own house, desperately need to take these things seriously. We are hopefully going to be able to partner up with 1 or 2 mental health and well-being companies. We've got one particularly that I would encourage you all to look at, and again I hope nearer the time in a couple of weeks we'll be able to mention a little bit more on that. But if you're on Twitter or Instagram, they're called Safe in Our World. It's a video games mental health charity, and it deals with the escapism of video games, the relief of it all, but also occasionally, I'm afraid, the dark side that comes with that. But you will find that this has been sort of embedded within the educational ethos of all of the units across the BTEC, which is what Pearson do anyway. So long story short, there's going to be fun.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, I've got a question from John, who is asking really, what about perhaps paid roles in the industry in the future? John, I'm just going to unmute you if that's okay, and then obviously perhaps if you wanted to respond to James, you're very welcome to.
Hello.
Bit of a delay there. Sorry about that, John. There we go.
Hi, John.
Hey, all right. Yeah, I was just my question was coming from Esports Wales. I know in the UK we've got something like Hitmarker where there are some paid roles. It's when I'm going to some of these Welsh colleges and justifying the BTEC. I know one of their questions are going to be what roles are they going into the future? So after this, have we got any stats to show that, or is there any I know you said work experience is one of the is a section on the course, but yeah, like from myself, I know there's Blong, but in Wales we only have one Blong store. Yeah, so that's really the question.
Okay, so I mean, you touched upon it there. We're very fortunate to have Belong HQ on our doorstep, and we've also got Lenovo, who are local to us. So what we want to do as part of the scholarship is to enable our students to go out and use the 2-year course as part of the mandatory work experience they have with us. So they get a week, ideally within the industry on top of that. If we can make this successful, then obviously the likes of, well, I say obviously, but we'll assume that the likes of Belong and Lenovo and HP may want to consider a similar route nationwide, because we're hopefully going to be able to trailblaze it to a certain degree. Yeah. We know that you could look at sort of work experience or, again, paid employment through using the shoutcasting option or the video editing or the branding on top of that in a more traditional role, which you would then make bespoke, obviously, to esports. I think in Istanbul, I might be wrong, currently has the largest gaming arena in Europe. Is that right? And I think that they are looking at a similar kind of process within education there as well. I know there's a gentleman called Sam who'll probably be able to message more about that. Thanks, Sam. Yeah. And again, I think what you would look to do is that as the industry exponentially grows in the next 6 months to 18 months, industries themselves are going to have to be flexible in creating specific esports opportunities.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just going to.
If that answers or not.
Yeah, well, it's I like from the Esports Wales perspective. I know a lot. Well, including myself, we volunteers and run the sort of organisation promoting esports within Wales. We've linked in with a number of colleges, and we'll trying to get teams in all those colleges to play in the British Esports Championships. Now, I know 1 or 2 of the colleges are looking at this course and wanting to sort of do this course. I know because I work in with a college myself. Their reluctance to go down the esports route was the sort of job prospects of the students at the end. Now, from my view, I know there's like a lot of jobs out there in esports, sort of global jobs. There's loads. It's just the case of sort of on your doorstep, especially in some of sort of the rural areas of Wales, you're not going to find those esports jobs there. But in saying that, I know a lot of this stuff can be done remotely and can support it. So it's just having that sort of material, if we can get it, really. So when we're sort of selling this to colleges, that we have that sort of that's the back that to say there is sort of future prospects which these students can move into.
Well, I mean, on a almost daily basis at the moment through LinkedIn, I'm getting messages from not only educational establishments but also esports industries too, who are particularly interested in what we plan on doing in September, John. There is an ESI event next week.
Yeah, I saw that on your Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be speaking to one of the people who've got a similar question as well, because what we don't want, I know that this conversation is obviously very specific to QMC, yeah. But I totally get what you're saying if you're a little bit more rural on top of that. But I think we know that in the next few months that COVID-19 has been a huge positive to esporters and therefore industries. And then again, I know particularly there's a gentleman called Sam here who's got a history of doing traditional staging events and management events, but there's a huge increase now for wanting students and also industry experts to move into the digital arena and to make specific esports arenas and venues. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only route, obviously, but again, it's a different avenue than you necessarily have thought. I think if you're just predisposed to think that an esporter is someone who sits in the dark and doesn't leave. So I think there will be more interest and more news along those lines.
Okay, cool.
Lovely. Okay,
thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Right, James, we have a question from Jazz. Jazz, I'll just unmute you. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. Jazz has asked, what hardware would you recommend, James? And I thought I'd just unmute you, Jazz, because I don't know whether or not you meant hardware for students to use on the course or just generally for esporting.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, it's just basically starting the enrichment program would be a really good way in. And you don't want to, obviously with money, we want to get the appropriate hardware. We'd look for James for advice.
Was that recommending hardware?
Yes.
Well, hardware for use in the enrichment programs.
Okay, well, as I say, there are several ways of doing it, and I'm not gonna pretend that all of them are easy or any of them are easy. But they have come about, or the connections I've made have come about either by sheer luck of being geographically near to very useful places, but also because I have found that there is a huge interest, wealth of knowledge, and capacity within something like LinkedIn, that as soon as you start mentioning this from an education perspective, we've got some very generous offers and people come through. Now, we already have a fantastic and excellent relationship with HP, and they've been looking after us now for many years in the more traditional computers, that you'd see on a normal classroom, if there is such a thing. So what we did is that when we went to Chichester Uni in May, I think it was, as well as taking a media teacher with me called Matt, I also took the head of IT, James, because it was very obvious that if we were going to get anywhere, we need the head of IT on board, as well as obviously the principal. And actually, the actual gaming kit and the hardware is similar in response to what laptop you would recommend. You can get something relatively cheap, inverted commas, that would do a good job, or if you're fortunate enough, you could spend your entire college budget on 50 gaming PCs and become very unpopular with the principal. So I'm always slightly reluctant to recommend any type of hardware, because when I also I'm the head of photography, so when we get students say what cameras or what laptops for media, I can give advice and I can give pointers and I can certainly point you in the right direction of things, but I'm always reluctant to say this one is the one you need. As I say, have aligned ourselves with the British Esports Association in the last 6-7 months. They run 3 games as part of the competition. They run Rocket League, Overwatch, and League of Legends. And on the whole, they are not high capacity or high spec games. I think Overwatch might be the biggest one, I think. But again, I'm not IT. I haven't got an IT brain anywhere near my body. So that's not my forte. But again, I can happily put you in touch with people who would know more. The British Esports Association have got recommendations on the basic specs you will need. And to be honest, most schools or colleges will have those computers, but whether they have them free or spare is something else. If you are fortunate enough to have a capital bid coming your way, or you can look to kind of, again, make contact with the right people, then that would always be a sensible place. And obviously get the head of IT on board.
Okay, cheers.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much there, Jazz. Okay, next question. Well, we've had one that I think is asked and answered. NH asked about class sizes, and I know that Kate has put in there that our maximum class sizes are 25. In terms of how many students we're expecting on the course, we're aiming to fill our classes, but obviously at this stage we can't really go much further than that. We'll just, obviously being the first year, have to see how that pans out. Next question, James, is Melanie is just asking, first of all, 2 things really. First of all, could you just confirm what shoutcasting is for those of us that don't know? And just to follow on from that, can you just let us know how much time you envisage the students spending on things like shoutcasting and in the TV suite, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I can give you a very broad definition of shoutcasting, I think, for sake of ease. It is, in essence, presenting and commentary to an esports event. Okay, so additional football commentators you're effectively going through for the audience at home or in the sort of live arenas or studios to keep up with the action, understand what's happening, commentate on the plays and the expertise and what have you. So that links quite well to the work that you would do within the esports industry in front of a camera, and also would lend itself a little bit to work you'd want to do in the editing studio and behind the camera from a media perspective in terms of setting it all up and getting it all stuff across to people like that. We are also fortunate a year ago to have opened up a TV studio within the media and art department at QMC. So what we want to what we want to be able to do is to link that TV studio with pre-production and post-production work within the esports team, and ideally QM Samurai. We've also got on the floor plan that I probably skipped over too quickly, on the proposal for the new floor, if all goes to plan in January, there will be an editing suite within that floor as well, which will be live linked to the gaming arenas on the same floor, which is going to prove to be quite an exciting, ridiculously stressful time for myself, but for all of the students who will take to it ever so quickly and probably already do it, they will love it. Brilliant.
Thank you very much, James. Okay, I'm just going to move on to Justin, if I may. Justin, I know that you were asking about sort of perhaps future contacts abroad, but I'll let you obviously pose that to you.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so much in terms of availability abroad and a load of different leagues abroad. Would there be any potential for contacts in other league companies in different places? For example, I know a lot of players from the UK have moved out to places like America and even down to South Korea to participate in leagues. I was wondering if there's any way of sort of forming a bridge between those sort of communities and making it a bit easier for us to bring in more potential for kids going through this course.
Hi, Justin. Absolutely. I mean, in a nutshell, I am trying to get some sort of world domination up and running come September, starting with QM Samurai. So what we're able to do with the various connections that we've already got, some friends within British Esports Association, some other university friends and industries on top of that, we want to be able to get September, October induction under our belt. We want to be able to compete locally and nationally, whether that's in sort of friendly scrimmages to begin with, but also get ourselves up and running for the British Esports Association again. And then we will look to, obviously take Europe on, for want of a better word. And we've got some connections that we found again in the last 2 weeks. I hope the talk that I'm a part of next Wednesday, I think it is, again at ESI, will be able to help me with that further along the lines with being able to get ourselves set up to be good to go. As we face yet another couple of weeks within lockdown, what I'm trying to also do is to use the current enrichment team to see if we are in a position to play 1 or 2 teams within France, but I can't confirm that because they haven't got back today. We had a few emails, but they haven't replied for a few days, so I can't promise that at the moment. Mm-hmm. But we want to put everything in place to allow that to happen, because as we all know, and what we said at the start, this course can run anyway, regardless of whether we are physically there or not come September or October. It'll be tricky. It'll be a new way to adapt. But what we know is that this industry is flexible and is already miles ahead than many, many other industries. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. And this is why it's going to prove to be successful. And this is why it's worth the billions of pounds that it is currently.
Of course.
But fingers crossed, Justin. Hopefully I'll have some good news in a couple of weeks for that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, lovely. Right, James. So I'm just going to come over to Mark. I know Mark asked a question about whether or not the enrichment would still run. And I know the answer to that is yes. But I think, Mark, there was a follow-up question. I am sorry, I missed it in the thread there.
Yep, important. Yeah, it was just to ask as well. I know you're doing the enrichment course, as been said earlier. But do you see the enrichment course changing now the BTEC's been put into place? How do you see that changing for other students and other courses who may have an interest but aren't fully invested in pursuing esports in a course or as a career?
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Not too bad, how are you?
Yeah, hear from you again. Well, the short answer is, again, this is uncharted waters for everyone, but the QMC approach, regardless of subject, is we are flexible. We will adapt and we will change depending on what, within reason, the students want. Last year, we had 2 enrichment esports opportunities. We have penciled in another 2 for this year. So maybe after a couple of weeks, we are able to filter, if timetables allow, filter between an esports enrichment, which has your more serious competitors and gamers and want to be involved in, say, the British Esports Association. And then we can put on the other enrichment hour And that could be with the more casual gamers who just want a bit of fun. They want to get to know some new people. There's no consequences, no pressure, there's no demand on it. And we can kind of flip between the two depending on what the students want, really. So I think what will happen is the enrichment will be as popular as it was last year, and I predict at least another 50 students. We have the same rules with engagement, for want of a better word, as we would with sport. If students want to do the fun bit of gaming, then their attendance has to be good. If they want to compete in their leagues, they can't just come to esports lessons and miss English literature, because it doesn't work like that. We've got to take this industry seriously, and we'll put those kind of rules and regulations in place. And we've also got to make sure that there are opportunities for casual gamers as well. So we hope that we can offer both kind of programs come September, as well as the BTEC as well, hopefully.
That sounds great. Thanks for answering that.
No worries, Mark. I mean, there's a huge amount of caveats to everything I'm saying, obviously, but all goes to plan. That is what we're trying to do.
I'll keep it simple for you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, just going to come over now to Josh. Okay, Pliny. Josh, I'm pretty certain that you and I have discussed your application quite recently, and I think I'll unmute you in a moment so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've switched over from media to the esports course. You are asking, you said that James mentioned swimming and competing. Will the games be limited to LOL, Overwatch and Rocket League, or will other esports games be added? I'll just unmute you there so you can obviously chat directly with James.
Hi Josh, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. I think this seems to be working. Don't ask me how, but this seems to be working. So we'll just go with it. At the moment, we've chosen those games again because it's what the British Esports Association recommended. And we do that because of the specifications required to a certain degree, but also bearing in mind that we're dealing with 16 and 17-year-olds for the most part. They've picked games that are certificate friendly, so nothing's 18 or above. So because we are still an educational establishment and we're not at university level, we're not going to be running around with latest Counter-Strike or Call of Duty or what have you. We're going to be keeping things that are relatively easy to maintain and manage and not get me fired within the first couple of weeks. You can look at expanding to different tournaments, and we want to kind of put on the first ever QMC FIFA tournament on top of that. And again, the purpose of that will be as part of a unit to run, but also as an opportunity for people who are just merely interested in it to create their own event. We know that FIFA and Fortnite will be popular in their own right, and there'll be various people booing or throwing pens at the screen, as I mentioned, either of them. But it all comes back to the sort of QMC ethos, which is we're not going to say no. We're not going to say we're not going to turn our noses up of anything within reason if it allows students who've got a genuine interest in this to kind of shape where we go for the next 6 or 7 months, and that's important. And I kind of mentioned it at the start when Pearson asked our students what they wanted. You are looking at a set of units that are more often not shaped by the students. Yes, myself and the teachers had to chisel away and make it user friendly, but you've got enough within that will be what the students want, and therefore it's only right that the students have a say on what games we can run, again within reason. So it allows more students to kind of show an interest. And there's not going to be an esports competitive Animal Crossing, obviously, but we want, which is probably best, but we want to be able to kind of have a variety of games far and wide where possible. All of these things comes at a cost because you've got to buy licenses for more computers, which, we haven't got unlimited money because there's no money in education. So if we can do it, and if it makes sense, we'll certainly look into do it.
Okay.
No worries, Josh.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Josh. Okay. So just a question here from Melanie Forrester. Let me just unmute you, Melanie. But you are really just asking if James could sort of clarify the percentage of student time that will be spent between the theory and the gaming. And I think you're quite right. I think parents will definitely be interested. I'll just unmute you so you can respond to James.
Thank you.
Hello, Mel.
Hello, hi. Sorry, I've taken probably more questions than I should do, but very interesting course.
No, that's right. That's what it's all about. What percentage of student time will be out of 5 hours of study? What will be spent in theory? So, it's going to be 4 out of 5 hours are going to be your more traditional, well, maybe 3 out of 5, more traditional teaching in a classroom. So the actual teaching will be, again, if all goes to plan in January, will be in the new building, in the very bespoke esports arena, for want of a better word. But we are looking to have students are going to have access to their own Chromebooks. We're going to be teaching specifically across, obviously, esports units, and there's going to be assignments for them to do, because what this BTEC is about getting them industry ready. And so therefore, I could run a 5-hour equivalent where they just game, and that's part of the enrichment, but that's not the purpose of the BTEC at all. So if they think that 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 hours of actual teaching is too much, then okay, the BTEC's not for them. But actually, it would be brilliant for those that have got a genuine sort of interest in this within the industry and beyond that. We'll also have access to Central Studio, which is effectively a theatre that we have on site as well, and we'll be using that to host massive sort of gaming events further down the line as well. So between the BTEC and the esports enrichment, we should have covered an awful lot between the educational purpose and also the casual fun gaming element on top of that too. When we move to the bigger qualification, there will be 2-3 hours a week reverse, where they have to host an event, and therefore they have to invite other students who don't do the course to come in and game, and they have to evaluate that and do a pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses stuff to it, as if you were doing a normal event, as if it were a BTEC event in business or media. But again, that's only one element or 1% of the overall year 1 and year 2.
Okay, lovely. Thanks so much.
Was that all right? Did that make sense,
yeah,
Mel?
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
To a non-gamer, yeah.
Good.
Not that I don't love the course. It's just,
no, don't worry. I'm learning as much as everyone else tonight. Don't worry.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
Thanks, Melanie. Okay, I'm just going to pop into the chat there the link for James's slides. You'll obviously, I'll try very hard to send this out by email by the wonder of technology, but I'm just going to pop it in now, so those of you that want it have got it straight away there. And I think that really, oh no, I do apologise. We've got I think, no question, just a lovely comment there from Shirley. Thank you. Okay, that's great. We'll close the questions there. If you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, please email either myself, most of you will have my email address now, or you can contact James directly. You need his email address. You're very welcome to contact me for that. But thank you very much for joining us all this evening. James, is there anything else that you would like to say in summary?
No, I mean, other than I've taken up an hour of everyone's time, so I'm beyond grateful to Victoria for arranging all of this and effectively sorting my life out for the last couple of days, and to you all for spending the time to get to know the course in a little bit more detail. So please, as Victoria said, please get in touch with me or Victoria about plans for September, whether that's from a student-parent perspective or business or otherwise. If we can help, we will, and we think that we've put something in place that's going to be truly unique and very popular.